Tonight begins beside the sea. You find yourself standing on a quiet shore road at the edge of a sleeping harbour, where the air is cool and soft with salt. Above you, the sky is deep and dark, scattered with calm stars, and below, the water moves in slow silver ripples beneath the moon. The world feels hushed, as though everything loud and hurried has drifted far away. No voices call from the town behind you. No footsteps pass. There is only the sleepy hush of the tide, the faint rustle of June grass, and the peaceful feeling that somewhere ahead, something gentle is waiting for you. As you look out across the bay, a tall lighthouse glows softly in the distance, like a lantern left burning just for you. You begin to walk slowly down the winding path toward the water. The stones beneath your feet are smooth and pale in the moonlight, and the harbour below seems wrapped in the kind of silence that belongs only to very late hours. Small cottages rest with their windows dim or dark. Fishing boats rock faintly in their places, and every surface seems touched by silver light. The lighthouse remains ahead of you, steady and warm, standing beyond the edge of the harbour as though it has been patiently waiting all night. With each step, the sound of the sea grows softer and fuller, no longer distant, but close enough to soothe every thought. It is not a wild sea tonight. It is calm and slow, breathing in and out beside the sleeping town. At the bottom of the hill, the harbour opens around you in a gentle curve of stone and water. Boats rest close together, rocking so slightly they seem almost still, their ropes creaking now and then with a soft, sleepy rhythm. Lanterns hanging from a few posts cast small pools of amber light across the quay, and their reflections tremble delicately on the surface of the water. Everything here feels cared for and quiet, as though the harbour itself has settled down for the night. Ahead, beyond the last pier, the lighthouse rises from its little rocky island, white against the dark sea, its warm upper windows glowing more softly than the beam above. It does not feel distant now. It feels welcoming. And somewhere within you, a calm certainty tells you that this is where the night is meant to lead. At the far end of the harbour, a small wooden boat waits at a narrow jetty. It is tied loosely to the post, rocking in the gentlest motion, with a lantern hanging from its bow and a folded blanket resting neatly on one of the benches. No boatman stands beside it, no voice calls out. Yet there is no feeling of uncertainty, only the strange and pleasant sense that the little boat has arrived at exactly the right moment. The lantern glows warmly against the dark water, and the reflection of its light stretches toward you in a wavering golden path. Beyond it, the lighthouse shines across the bay, calm and steady, as if guiding not ships tonight, but you alone. The boat seems less like transport and more like an invitation. You step into the waiting boat, and almost at once it begins to drift away from the pier. The movement is so gentle that it feels less like travelling and more like being carried into stillness. The harbour slowly begins to recede behind you, its cottages and lanterns growing softer as the open water welcomes you forward. The boat makes almost no sound at all, only the quiet lap of water against wood and the faint rhythmic creak of the hull. Overhead, the stars remain clear and calm. Ahead, the lighthouse beam sweeps slowly through the night, never harsh, never bright enough to disturb the darkness, only turning in a measured circle like a great breathing light. Wrapped in the hush of the sea, you let the little boat carry you onward. Now the harbour lies behind you, and the sea opens on every side. The water is dark, but not empty. It glimmers softly wherever the moonlight touches it, turning each small ripple into a moving thread of silver. The boat rises and settles with a slow, steady rhythm, and the motion is so calm that it seems to quiet the mind all by itself. The air is cooler here, touched by salt and mist, yet the lantern near you keeps its warm little circle of light. Far away, the shoreline has become a sleeping shape of pale roofs and shadowed stone. Closer now, the lighthouse stands tall above the rocks, its upper windows warm, its beams slow and watchful. It feels ancient, kind, and awake on behalf of the whole sea. As the boat glides onward, the lighthouse beam sweeps gently across the sea and passes over you. For a moment, the water around the boat brightens into pale gold, and then the light moves on again, leaving the night soft and blue behind it. The turning beam does not feel stern or watchful, but calm and measured, like a lullaby repeating itself in light instead of sound. Each time it circles, it seems to mark another quiet breath of the night. You watch the white tower rising larger now, its stone walls touched by moonlight, its windows glowing warmly, like little pockets of safety in the dark. The sea continues its slow rocking beneath you, and the farther you drift from shore, the more the world seems to simplify into only a few perfect things: water, stars, light, and rest. At last, the boat rounds a cluster of dark rocks, and a small hidden dock comes into view at the foot of the lighthouse island. A narrow wooden landing rests in a sheltered cove where the water is smoother still, barely stirring except for the quiet kiss of the tide against the posts. Stone steps climb from the dock toward the tower, and along their edge, small lanterns glow one by one, as though they had known the exact moment you would arrive. The lighthouse rises above them, white and tall against the sky, its warm windows brighter now, hinting at quiet rooms inside. The little boat eases itself against the dock as softly as a feather settling. The journey across the water is over, but the deeper part of the night, the part made of warmth, light, and gentle wonder, is only beginning. You leave the boat behind and begin to climb the lantern-lit steps. They curve gently upward between pale grasses and smooth sea-worn stones, each one carrying you a little higher above the water. The sound of the waves changes as you rise, becoming broader and softer, more like a steady hush than a shoreline rhythm. When you glance back, the harbour across the bay looks far away now, its tiny lights dim and peaceful beneath the stars. Ahead, the lighthouse door waits in a pool of warm amber light, round and wooden, framed by white stone and polished brass. The tower no longer feels mysterious in the way distant things do. It feels familiar already, as though some part of you has visited it before. Perhaps not in waking life, but in dreams. At the top of the steps, you come to the great round door of the lighthouse. Up close, the wood is old and beautifully cared for, smooth from age, ringed with brass that glows softly in the lantern light. The stone around it is whitewashed and cool, carrying the faint scent of salt and sea air. Above, one narrow window shines with a golden light, and somewhere high overhead, the great beam continues its slow turning through the night. The door stands closed, yet there is nothing forbidding about it. Instead, it feels peaceful, patient, and welcoming, as though the whole tower has been keeping a place ready for you. When the latch gives way and the door opens inward on its own, a wave of warmth spills out to meet you. Inside, the lighthouse is warmer than you imagined. You step into a circular entrance hall with smooth wooden floors, curved white walls, and a lantern hanging from the ceiling that casts a soft golden light across everything below. Built-in shelves hold neatly folded blankets, a few polished shells, and a ceramic bowl where sea glass glimmers faintly like tiny pieces of moonlight. Along one wall stands a wooden bench beside a row of pegs for coats and scarves, and near the door sits a pair of well-kept boots, as though the keeper has only just stepped out for a quiet errand in a dream. The air smells of cedar, salt, and something warm from farther inside. Ahead, an archway opens into the heart of the tower, and beyond it, you sense more quiet rooms waiting. Beyond the entrance hall, you find a small round kitchen tucked into the lower part of the tower. Copper pans hang quietly above a polished wooden counter. A blue kettle rests on a little iron stove, and a loaf of bread sits beneath a cloth beside a crock of butter and a jar of honey. Everything is simple, but every detail has been arranged with care, as if this room exists for the very purpose of making tired travelers feel safe. A low fire glows in the stove, warming the air with a gentle heat, and on a nearby shelf stand cups and teapots in soft, sea-washed colors. The room does not feel empty. It feels kindly. Like the rest of the lighthouse, it seems to have been expecting you and to know exactly what kind of comfort the night requires. Near the kitchen, a small table stands beside a round window overlooking the sea. On the table waits a steaming cup of tea and a little plate of biscuits, as though they had been set there only moments ago. The chair beside it is tucked neatly in, and the window beyond frames the dark water below, where the moonlight drifts across the gentle swells. From here, the sound of the ocean is muted slightly by the thick stone walls, becoming softer, more distant, more dreamlike. The warmth of the room and the cool hush beyond the glass make a comforting contrast, as though the night has two hands, one made of sea breeze and moonlight, the other of firelight and tea, and both are guiding you toward rest. For a while, you simply stand and breathe it all in. From the kitchen, another small doorway leads into a quiet room lined with shelves and drawers. At its center stands a round table, holding old charts and instruments polished by careful hands. The maps are beautiful but faint in the soft light, their markings too distant to read, more like patterns than instructions. Brass compasses, a little telescope, and smooth stones collected from distant shores rest around them in calm, orderly clusters. A lantern glows above the table, and the whole room feels dedicated not to urgency or navigation, but to the peaceful art of knowing where things belong. Sea, stars, shore, light. It is a room for remembering that the world can still be gentle and understandable. You linger there for a moment, letting the quiet order of it settle around you like another layer of calm. At the center of the lighthouse, the spiral stair begins. It curves upward around a tall, hollow core, each wooden step polished smooth, each brass rail catching a soft line of lantern light. Looking up, you can see only a few landings ahead before the staircase disappears into warm shadow and pale moonlit glow. Looking down, the lower rooms already seem part of another layer of the night, cozy, quiet, and a little dreamlike, as though you have stepped beyond ordinary time the moment you entered the tower. You place your attention on the climb, slow and unhurried. The lighthouse does not ask you to rush. It seems to know that true rest begins when every movement grows gentle, when even going upward feels like settling deeper into peace. You climb to the first landing and find a narrow window cut into the wall. Through it, the sea stretches away in silver blue darkness, wide and calm under the stars. From this height, the hidden dock below seems very small, and the little boat that carried you here rocks so softly it appears to be dreaming on the water. Inside, the lighthouse remains quiet, except for the subtle creak of old wood and the faint turning hush of the great light above. A low shelf beneath the window holds a lantern, a folded shawl, and a small bowl filled with smooth, pale shells. The landing is simple, but it carries the same feeling as every room below, that of being thoughtfully prepared, as though comfort here is not an afterthought, but the very purpose of the place. A little higher up, a small round room opens from the stair. Shelves curve along the wall, filled with shells of every size and color. Pearly spirals, pale fans, smooth cream stones, and pieces of driftwood polished by years of tides. Moonlight falls through a round window and mingles with the amber glow of a lamp, giving each shell a faint inner shimmer. In the center of the room stands a cushioned stool and a low table where a few of the finest treasures have been arranged with the care of someone who understands that beauty can be quiet. The room feels like a collection of sea whispers, each object holding a memory of water, distance, and time. Standing there, you feel the hush of the ocean gathered into one small and peaceful place. The next room above is small and especially inviting. A built-in bench curves beneath a round window, layered with soft cushions and a folded blanket in deep sea blue and cream. Beside it stands a tiny shelf of old books, their spines beautiful but unreadable in the dim golden light. And near the window, a brass lamp glows with a steady warmth. The sea beyond the glass is darker now from this height, no longer close and detailed, but broad and velvety beneath the sky. It is the kind of place where one could sit for hours listening to the waves and turning pages slowly, not to learn anything urgent, but simply to be comforted by stories and quiet. Even empty, the alcove feels lived in by peace itself. You continue upward, the staircase winding gently through the tower. Now and then, the turning light above sends a soft, shifting glow through the stairwell, and the whole lighthouse seems to breathe with it. Brighten, soften, brighten again. The rhythm is slow and reassuring, like the rise and fall of calm breathing before sleep. As you climb, the sea sounds farther away, but never gone. They follow you upward in a softened hush, joined by the faint murmur of the lantern flame and the old timber's quiet creak. The higher you go, the more the lighthouse feels less like a building and more like a carefully kept dream, a place made of circles, warm light, moonlit windows, and stillness deep enough to hold every tired thought until it settles at last. At last, you reach a quiet chamber just below the lantern room. It is round and softly lit, with a low fire glowing in a small stove, a comfortable armchair drawn near the warmth, and a narrow bed tucked against the curved wall beneath a folded quilt. A brass lamp stands on a side table beside a cup waiting in silence, and above, through the beams of the ceiling, you sense the slow turning presence of the great light overhead. Across from the chair, a tall window looks out over the whole sleeping sea. From here, the world seems impossibly calm. The harbour distant, the water silvered, the sky deep and full of stars. You have not yet reached the very top of the lighthouse, but already it feels as though the night has welcomed you home. From the quiet chamber beneath the lantern, the staircase continues a little farther upward. The steps are narrower here, curving closely around the whitewashed wall, and the brass handrail feels smooth beneath the soft glow of the lamps. Above you, the light turns slowly, casting a pale golden shimmer through the cracks around the ceiling beams. It moves without hurry, crossing the stairwell in long, gentle breaths of brightness and shadow. The sound of the sea is distant now, far below the thick stone, yet somehow it feels closer inside you, as though the whole tower has gathered the rhythm of the waves and carried it upward. You climb slowly, one step at a time, feeling the warmth of the chamber behind you and the quiet mystery of the lantern room ahead. At the top of the final stair, you reach a small landing beneath a low wooden door. It is not large or grand, yet it feels important in the quietest possible way. The door is curved slightly to match the tower wall, made of dark wood with brass hinges and a small round handle polished by time. Around its edges, a warm glow slips through in thin lines, brightening and dimming as the great light turns beyond it. A lantern hangs beside the door, steady and golden, illuminating a small shelf where a folded cloth, a smooth stone, and a single pearly shell have been placed with care. You pause for a moment, listening to the soft hush above. Then the latch gives a gentle click, and the door opens inward. You step into the lantern room, and the whole night opens around you. The chamber is round and made almost entirely of glass, framed by dark iron and polished brass that gleams softly in the turning light. Beyond the windows, the sea stretches in every direction, silver blue beneath the moon, calm and endless. The harbour is far below now, reduced to tiny warm sparks along the shore, and the path you climbed is only a faint thread on the rocks. In the center of the room stands the great lantern mechanism, quiet and beautiful, its glass lens catching the warm glow and sending it outward across the water. It is not harsh, not blinding, not urgent. It is gentle, steady, and kind, a light made for guiding tired things safely home. The great lens stands at the center of the room, like a crystal heart. Layer upon layer of glass curves around the golden flame, each surface catching the light and bending it into soft, floating reflections. Small glimmers move across the brass floor, across the window frames, across the quiet walls, like little pieces of dawn wandering through the night. There is a low sound here, barely more than a hum, the peaceful murmur of careful machinery turning in sleep. The lens rotates so slowly that watching it feels like watching the moon cross the sky. Nothing rushes. Nothing strains. The light simply moves because it is meant to move, circling the tower, touching the sea, and returning again, as patient as breath. You stand beside the lantern and watch the beam turn. It moves slowly across the sea, passing over black rocks, silver water, distant boats, and sleeping roofs. Wherever it touches, the world seems to soften. The waves become smoother, the mist becomes lighter. Even the stars appear to pause for a moment before returning to their quiet places. When the beam reaches the harbour, the little windows below glow more warmly, as though every sleeping room has been gently reminded that it is safe. Then the light passes onward, sweeping over the open water and into the far dark. The motion is steady and repeating, so calm that your breathing begins to follow it without effort. Light, shadow, light, shadow, light again. Each pane of glass seems to hold a different piece of the night. Through one window, you see the harbour sleeping beneath its small amber lamps. Through another, The open sea stretches toward a pale horizon. Through another, still, dark rocks rise from the water, softened by mist and moonlight. The lantern room turns the world into a circle of quiet views, each one complete, each one peaceful. You move slowly around the room, following the curve of the windows, and every step reveals another calm angle of the same gentle world. Nothing beyond the glass asks for anything. The sea moves, the stars shine, the light turns, and the lighthouse keeps its watch. Here, high above everything, stillness feels wide enough to hold the whole night. Near one curved wall, a comfortable chair waits beside a small brass lamp. It is placed where the keeper could sit and watch both the lantern and the sea, wrapped in the warmth of the tower while the night moves slowly beyond the glass. A folded blanket rests over one arm, and a little wooden table stands beside it with a cup, a smooth stone, and a tiny shell. Nothing here feels abandoned. It feels paused, as though someone who loved this place simply stepped away and left every comfort ready for the next tired traveler. You stand near the chair and look out through the glass at the far water. The view is so quiet and high that your thoughts begin to loosen, drifting apart like mist over the sea. On a narrow shelf near the keeper's chair lies an old book bound in deep blue cloth. Its cover is plain, softened by age, with no title you can read, only a faint pattern like waves pressed into the fabric. When it opens, the pages do not show ordinary writing. Instead, they hold soft shapes, little harbours, curved shorelines, glowing windows, tiny boats, and paths of moonlight crossing water. The images shift slowly, not like pictures trying to tell you something, but like memories remembering themselves. One page shows the harbour below. Another shows a shoreline you have never seen, yet somehow know would feel safe. The book seems to be a record not of places, but of refugees, all the quiet corners of the world where tired hearts may rest. You look more closely at the page showing the harbour below. The tiny lights within it glow faintly, like embers seen through paper. The little boats rock in miniature, and the painted water shimmers with the same silver path you saw from the shore. It is not a map, not exactly, and not a painting either. It feels more like the harbour's dream of itself, softer, quieter, and kinder than any waking place could be. As the lighthouse beam turns outside the window, a thread of gold passes across the page, and the little harbour brightens. For a few peaceful seconds, every tiny window in the picture glows as though someone inside has just fallen more deeply asleep. Then the gold fades, and the page rests again. Another page turns by itself, slowly and silently. This one shows far islands resting beneath a sky full of stars. Their shores are ringed with pale sand and dark rocks, and small lanterns glow along paths that wind between quiet trees. You cannot hear the place, yet you can almost feel it. Warm air, soft grass, water lapping gently in hidden coves. The islands drift across the page as though seen from very high above, each one peaceful, each one waiting beneath the night. Outside the real windows, the lighthouse beam continues its circle over the sea. Inside the book, the islands answer with tiny sparks of light. It seems the lighthouse does not only guide ships, it guides dreams toward places where they can safely become rest. Beside the book rests a small brass compass. Its lid is open, but the needle does not point north. Instead, it turns slowly, following the rhythm of the lighthouse beam. When the light sweeps across the sea, the needle glides in the same direction, then settles, then moves again. Around its face are no markings you can read, only tiny glimmers like stars caught beneath glass. The compass seems to listen, not to distance or direction, but to quietness. It points toward whatever place needs gentleness most. A harbour, an island, a window, a bed beside the sea. You watch the needle turn again and feel something inside you turn with it, away from worry, away from hurry, and toward calm. After a while, you return to the keeper's chair. The cup on the little table is warm when you lift it, though you do not remember seeing steam before. It carries the comforting scent of honey, herbs, and something faintly floral, like flowers that bloom only in moonlight. You settle into the chair for a moment, letting the blanket rest across your lap as the lantern turns beside you. The glass room glows softly. The sea below murmurs in a voice too distant to disturb, and the brass machinery continues its gentle, faithful rhythm. Each sip seems to make the room quieter. Not darker, exactly, and not smaller, but more sheltered. The world outside remains wide and blue, while inside, everything feels close, warm, and kind. The longer you sit, the softer the lantern seems to become. Its beam still turns across the sea, but now its edges look feathered and gentle, as though the light has learned to move without waking anything it touches. When it passes over the harbour, it does not brighten the cottages so much as bless them with warmth. When it passes over the rocks, the shadows become rounder and less sharp. When it passes over the water, the waves flatten into long silver ribbons. You understand, without needing to ask, that this is the hour when the lighthouse changes its work. By day, perhaps, it guides ships. By night, at this deep and quiet hour, it guides sleep itself through the darkness. Beyond the glass, the sea begins to look almost unreal. The moon's reflection stretches wider than before, becoming a pale road across the water. The waves continue to move, but so slowly that they seem to be breathing in a dream. Far below, the little boat at the hidden dock rocks once, twice, then settles again in the dark cove. The harbour lights shimmer, and the distant roofs blur gently in the mist. As the lighthouse beam passes over the open water, faint golden shapes appear for a moment beneath the surface, Not fish, not reflections, but drifting fragments of dreams on their way somewhere peaceful. They fade almost as soon as you notice them, leaving only the sea, the moon, and the quiet turning light. A narrow door opens onto the outer gallery that circles the lantern room. You step out carefully, and the night air meets you cool and clean. A brass railing curves around the tower, polished by salt and time. And beyond it, the world falls away into sea, sky, and moonlight. The height should feel dizzying, but it does not. The lighthouse holds you so steadily that even the distance feels gentle. The wind is soft here, barely more than a breath moving around the glass. Below, waves fold around the rocks in pale ribbons, and the harbour lies quiet beyond the cove. The lantern turns behind you, warm through the glass, and for a moment you stand between two kinds of calm. The warmth within and the wide blue hush outside. From the gallery, you can see the whole shape of the night. The harbour curves like a small bowl of darkness filled with warm sparks. The road where you first arrived winds faintly along the hill, nearly hidden now among grasses and stone walls. The little jetty, the boat, the steps, the door, each part of the journey lies below you in peaceful order, as though arranged by a dream that knew exactly how to lead you here. The sea spreads beyond it all, patient and moonlit, carrying the soft rhythm that has been with you since the beginning. You rest your attention on the distant water and let the view become simple. Lights below, stars above, waves between. The lighthouse holding everything gently in place. Standing there, you begin to notice the rhythm of the tower. The lantern turns, the beam passes, the shadows move, the waves answer. Again and again, the same gentle cycle continues, not mechanical now, but almost alive. The lighthouse seems to breathe in light and breathe out calm. It gathers the darkness from the sea, softens it, and sends it back as a golden path. It gathers the restlessness from the harbour, smooths it, and returns it as sleep. You do not have to understand how. You only have to stand within it and feel how steady it is. The tower is not lonely. It is watchful. It is kind. It has kept this rhythm for years and years, and tonight it keeps it for you. Far out on the water, tiny lights appear. At first they seem like distant boats, but they move too softly, leaving no wake behind them. They drift across the moonlit sea like lanterns floating inside a dream. Some are pale gold, some silver, some faint blue, like stars reflected in deep water. They travel slowly towards the lighthouse beam, and whenever the light touches them, they glow a little brighter before continuing on their quiet way. You understand that these are not ships in the ordinary sense. They are sleeping thoughts, gentle wishes, unfinished dreams, all crossing the sea toward places where they can rest. The sight is so peaceful that you do not try to follow any one of them. You simply watch them drift. When the night air has cooled your face and quieted your thoughts, you step back inside. The lantern room welcomes you with warmth. The glass door closes softly behind you, and the sound of the sea becomes distant again, wrapped in stone and brass and gentle light. The keeper's chair waits where you left it. The cup rests on the little table. The book lies open, its pages dim now, as though the dreams within have settled for the night. The great lens continues its slow circle, but the room feels even calmer than before. You take one last look around the lantern chamber, the glass, the brass, the golden flame, the endless windows, and feel that you have seen the lighthouse's secret. It guides by being steady. At last, you leave the lantern room and descend the short stair to the chamber below. The room looks even more inviting now. The little stove glows with a steady amber heart. The armchair waits beneath its folded blanket, and the narrow bed rests quietly against the curved wall. Through the tall window, the sea is lower and softer than it was before, still silver under the moon. Above you, the lantern continues to turn. Its movement felt more than seen, like a calm thought circling overhead. The whole chamber seems held between warmth and water, between firelight and starlight, between waking and dream. You pause in the doorway, letting the peace of the room meet you slowly. There is nowhere else you need to go just yet. You step fully into the chamber below the lantern and let the door rest closed behind you. The room seems quieter than before, as though it has been waiting patiently while you stood above with the great light and the sea. The little stove glows with a soft amber warmth, and each pulse of firelight moves gently over the curved white walls, the dark wooden floor, the folded quilt, and the waiting chair. Outside the tall window, the ocean continues beneath the moon, wide and calm, its silver path stretching far into the night. You do not need to decide what comes next. For now, the room asks only that you pause, that you breathe, that you let the warmth reach you slowly, while the lighthouse keeps turning above, steady and kind. The narrow bed beneath the curved wall draws your attention. Its quilt is folded neatly back, layered in soft creams, muted blues, and warm grey, like the colours of moonlight, foam, and smooth stones along the shore. A small pillow rests near the headboard, and beside it, a brass lamp glows low, not bright enough to disturb the room, only warm enough to make every shape feel safe. Through the window, the sea moves in slow lines, rising and falling beneath the moon. The bed seems placed exactly where the hush of the ocean can reach it, but never too loudly. It feels less like a bed made for sleeping through the night, and more like one made for slowly remembering how easy rest can be. You listen, and the room seems to gather every quiet sound into softness. The fire gives a small, steady murmur. The wooden floor answers now and then with the gentlest creak. Far above, the lantern turns with a hush too soft to be heard clearly, but still somehow felt, like a slow circle moving through the air. Beyond the stone wall, beyond the window glass, the sea continues its ancient rhythm. It does not crash or call. It simply breathes against the rocks, patient and low, each wave arriving, resting, and slipping away. The sounds do not compete with one another. They fold together until the chamber feels wrapped in a single lullaby made of fire, wood, glass, light, and water. Then, near the side of the room, you notice something you did not see before. Set low into the curved wall is a small blue door, painted the color of deep evening water. It is narrow, simple, and edged with brass that glimmers faintly in the firelight. There is no handle at first, only a smooth round shell fixed at the center, pearly and pale. The door is so quiet that it does not feel strange to have missed it. It seems like the kind of door that only appears once the room knows you are calm enough to notice. The stove gives one warmer glow. The shell catches the light, and with the softest click, the little blue door opens inward, revealing a passage lit by lanterns. You pass through the little blue door into a hidden passage inside the lighthouse wall. It curves gently ahead, following the round shape of the tower, with smooth stone on one side and dark wooden panels on the other. Small lanterns hang at even intervals, each one glowing with a warm, sleepy flame. The passage is not cramped or dark. It feels sheltered, like a secret path built only for quiet hours. Beneath your feet, the floor is covered with a narrow woven runner, the color of sand and faded blue wool. Somewhere beyond the stone, the sea keeps moving, but here the sound is softened until it seems to come from inside the walls themselves. The passage leads onward, slow and inviting, deeper into the lighthouse's dream. The passage opens into a round room where the floor holds a shallow pool of clear water. It is not large, only a quiet circle of stillness set into pale stone. Moonlight enters through a low window and rests on the pool's surface, where it trembles faintly with each distant movement of the sea. Around the edge are smooth rocks, small shells, and soft tufts of seagrass growing as though they belong there. The water does not feel cold or wild. It feels calm, like a piece of the ocean brought indoors and taught to whisper. Above it, a lantern hangs from a dark wooden beam, its amber reflection meeting the silver reflection of the moon. The two lights float together, golden and blue, until the room seems to breathe with quiet water. You stand beside the little tide pool and watch the moonlight move across it. At first, the water is almost still. Then a tiny ripple passes from one side to the other, as though a faraway wave has remembered this quiet room and sent a greeting through the stone. The reflection of the moon bends and reforms, breaking into silver pieces before becoming whole again. The lantern above glows softly, its amber light resting beside the moon's pale shimmer. Nothing in the room asks to be understood. It only invites you to watch slowly. The ripple fades, the reflection steadies, the seagrass barely moves, and with each gentle change, your thoughts become a little less sharp, a little less hurried, and a little more like water. Beyond the tide pool room, the hidden passage continues. This part is lined with little shell lanterns set into the walls. Each one glows softly from within, not bright like a flame, but pearly and warm, as though moonlight and firelight have been mixed together and poured into the shells. Their light makes the curved stone shimmer gently, revealing tiny flecks of blue, cream, and gold within the plaster. The passage slopes almost imperceptibly downward, not far enough to feel like leaving the tower, only enough to make each step feel slower and easier. You follow the shell lights without needing to know where they lead. The lighthouse has guided ships, dreams, and sleeping thoughts all night. Now, just as gently, it guides you. The next room is lined with maps, but not the kind used for travel. These maps are painted on soft fabric, hanging from wooden rods along the curved walls. They show shorelines, islands, coves, and harbours, but none have names or markings you can read. Instead, they seem to show the feeling of places: a safe bay beneath stars, a cottage beside calm water, a lantern path through mist, a bed near an open window. In the center of the room is a low table covered with smooth stones, folded cloth, and a small brass lamp. The maps move slightly in the sea breeze that somehow finds its way here, and as they stir, the quiet places painted on them appear to breathe. It is a room of destinations for dreams too tired to wander far. One fabric map near the far wall begins to glow more warmly than the others. It shows a quiet inlet surrounded by dark rocks, with a single house beside the water and a lantern burning in its window. A narrow path leads from the shore to a small bed tucked beneath a roof of stars. The image is simple, but deeply comforting, as though the map has chosen not a place you must go, but a feeling you may rest inside. The brass lamp on the table flickers once, and the glow on the fabric brightens just enough to reveal tiny threads of gold running through the stitched water. They shimmer like moonlit ripples. Then the map settles again, still and soft, holding its little harbour of sleep in silence. Another doorway opens into a room filled with blankets. They are folded on curved shelves from floor to ceiling, arranged in quiet colors: cream, blue, gray, sea green, and deep midnight. Some look thick and woolen, others light and soft as mist. A round rug covers the wooden floor, and a low lantern glows beside a cushioned bench beneath a small window. The whole room seems devoted to warmth. Not the bright warmth of a fire, but the gentle kind that settles over shoulders, beds, and tired thoughts. You imagine the lighthouse keeper choosing a blanket for every kind of night. One for fog, one for starlight, one for homesickness, one for dreams that have traveled too far. Here, every folded layer promises shelter. On the lowest shelf rests a blanket darker than the others. It is folded carefully, deep blue, with tiny silver threads woven through it, so that it looks like a piece of night sky gathered into cloth. When the lantern light touches it, the threads glimmer faintly, not like decoration, but like distant stars seen through calm water. The blanket seems impossibly soft, the kind of softness that belongs to dreams just before sleep takes hold. Nearby, the window shows the sea moving beneath the moon, and for a moment, the blanket and the water appear to share the same quiet color. You understand that this is not a blanket for cold. It is a blanket for letting go, for making the world feel far enough away to rest. The small window in the blanket room looks out not toward the harbour, but toward the open sea. Beyond it, the moon has moved behind a veil of cloud, and the stars seem clearer than before. They scatter across the sky in quiet clusters, each one reflected faintly in the dark water below. As you watch, a few reflections drift slowly across the waves, not following the sky exactly, but moving as though they are sleepy lights floating on the tide. The room remains warm behind you, full of folded softness and lantern glow, while the window holds the cool, endless night. The contrast is soothing. Inside, shelter. Outside, space. Inside, blankets. Outside, stars. Both seem to say the same thing in different ways. There is room now to rest. The hidden passage bends again and brings you to a small workroom. A sturdy wooden table stands beneath a hanging lamp, covered not with tools of heavy labor, but with gentle, careful things. A spool of thread, a folded sailcloth, a little jar of buttons, a smooth piece of driftwood, a brush, a brass needle case, and a half-finished lantern cover made of pale fabric. It feels like the room where the lighthouse mends what the sea has softened. Nets, cloth, ropes, perhaps even the tired edges of dreams. A narrow window is open just a little, letting in the faintest breath of salt air. The lamp does not flicker. The table waits in perfect quiet, as though even unfinished work may sleep peacefully here. The pale fabric on the work table catches your eye. It is stretched over a small wooden frame, thin enough for light to pass through, and stitched with shapes that look like waves, stars, and little sleeping boats. There are no words, no pattern to follow, only a gentle design that seems made by memory rather than instruction. Beside it, a small lantern glows low, and when its light passes through the fabric, the stitched shapes appear on the wall in soft amber shadows. A boat, a wave, a star, then only warmth again. The shadows move slightly as the lantern flame shifts, and the whole room becomes slow and drowsy, like a place where even light is being tucked in for the night. Beyond the workroom, the passage grows cooler, and the air smells faintly of salt and stone. It opens into a room where the floor dips gently toward a wide window set low in the wall. Outside, the rocks below are visible in the moonlight, dark and shining where the tide has drawn back. Little pools rest between them, catching pieces of sky. The room itself is simple: a stone bench, a wool cushion, a lantern on the floor, and a shelf holding smooth pebbles arranged by color. It feels like a place made for watching things recede. Waves, worries, long thoughts, old restlessness, all of them drawing back slowly, leaving behind only still pools and silver reflections. You stay there for a while, letting the quiet low tide teach the room how to breathe. On the shelf beside the low window, the pebbles lie in careful rows. Some are pale as cream, some grey as morning mist, some deep blue-black like the sea at midnight. They are smooth from years of water passing over them, softened not by force, but by endless gentleness. You look at them and think of how the sea changes everything slowly. Sharp edges become round, heavy things become light enough to carry. Restless surfaces become polished and calm. A small beam of moonlight moves across the shelf, touching each pebble in turn, and for a moment they seem to glow from within. The room offers no lesson in words. It simply shows you what patience can do, and the showing is enough. As you watch the rocks beyond the window, the tide seems to pause. The water lies low and quiet, gathered in dark pools, silvered at the edges. Then, almost too slowly to notice, the sea begins to return. A thin line of water slips between two rocks, then another, each one moving with the patience of sleep itself. The tide does not rush back. It remembers its way. The pools join together, and the moon's reflection lengthens across them like a soft ribbon. Somewhere far above, the lighthouse beam turns again, and a faint golden shimmer touches the water below. The low tide room grows warmer, as though the returning sea has brought a deeper quiet with it. When the tide has settled into its slow return, the hidden passage curves back toward the heart of the lighthouse. The shell lanterns are dimmer now, their pearly glow softer than before, as though they too are growing sleepy. The woven runner beneath your feet feels warm and familiar, and the whitewashed walls carry the faint scent of salt, lantern oil, and old wood. You pass the blanket room, the soft maps, the tide pool door, each one now resting quietly behind you. Nothing closes sharply, nothing disappears. The rooms simply settle, like pages in a book being turned gently back into place. Ahead, the passage rises slightly, and warm firelight begins to glow along the curve, guiding you back toward the chamber beneath the lantern. You return through the small blue door into the chamber below the lantern. The room welcomes you as if no time has passed, though something about it feels softer now. The stove glows steadily. The tall window holds the moonlit sea. The narrow bed waits beneath its folded quilt, and the chair rests near the fire with the blanket still draped over one arm. Above, the lantern continues its patient turning, but here below, the light feels distant and deeply comforting. The hidden rooms remain somewhere behind the wall, quiet and folded into the tower like dreams within dreams. You stand for a moment in the warm center of the chamber and feel the whole lighthouse around you, the sea below, the beam above, and rest waiting close at hand. Back in the chamber beneath the lantern, the room seems to grow softer around the edges. The fire in the little stove burns low and steady, casting a warm amber glow across the curved walls. The narrow bed waits quietly beneath its layered quilt, and the chair near the fire looks deeper and more comfortable than before. Through the tall window, the sea is still silver beneath the moon, but now the water seems slower, as though the whole ocean is beginning to drift towards sleep. The small blue door rests closed again, blending almost perfectly into the wall. You can still feel the hidden rooms behind it, folded away like peaceful thoughts. The lighthouse has shown you its secret places, and now it asks nothing more than that you stay here, safe and warm, while the night becomes gentle enough to carry you deeper. You move toward the chair beside the stove. Its worn leather is warm from the fire, and the blanket over its arm has slipped slightly, as though inviting you to rest there for a while. The small table beside it holds the cup you saw before, still faintly warm, with a thread of steam rising into the lantern light. The room is quiet enough that even the steam seems slow. Above, the lantern turns in its hidden circle, and every so often, a muted glow passes across the ceiling beams like the memory of sunlight. You settle your attention on the little fire, watching its embers brighten and dim. There is no hurry now, no next step waiting. Only the chair, the cup, the window, the soft bed nearby, and the lighthouse breathing gently around you. The cup gives off a gentle scent of honey, herbs, and sea air. When you look into it, the surface reflects not the room, but the moonlit water outside. A tiny silver path lies across the tea, trembling faintly as though a small tide has found its way into the cup. The steam curls upward in soft shapes, then fades into the warm air. You do not need to drink it quickly. The cup seems made for holding, for feeling warmth settle into your hands, for allowing the quiet to gather one breath at a time. The fire murmurs, the window glows blue, the chair supports you without asking anything, and as the lighthouse turns above, the little reflection in the cup brightens and dims, like a moon too small and kind to keep you awake. Across the room, the quilt on the narrow bed shifts almost imperceptibly, not as though something has moved beneath it, but as though a soft breath of sea air has passed through the fabric. The layers settle into deeper folds, cream over blue, blue over grey, each one catching the firelight and moonlight in quiet turns. Tiny silver threads in the cloth glimmer for a moment, like stars scattered over calm water. The bed seems even more inviting now, but not urgent. It waits with the patience of the whole lighthouse. A place of rest does not need to call loudly. It only needs to remain warm, gentle, and ready. You watch the quilt become still again, and the stillness itself feels like an invitation to let your own thoughts settle too. The tall window beside the bed seems larger than before. Its frame remains the same dark wood, its glass still touched by moonlight, yet the view beyond it has quietly changed. The sea outside no longer looks far below the tower. It looks close, level with the room, as if the chamber has drifted gently downward until it rests beside the water. The moon's reflection stretches towards the window in a silver path, calm and unbroken. No wind enters. No cold touches the room. Only the sense of distance softening, as though the boundary between inside and outside has become kind and thin. The lighthouse remains around you, warm and steady, but the sea feels nearer now, not to pull you away, but to cradle the room more deeply. The silver path on the water grows clearer. It begins at the moon, crosses the calm sea, and reaches the window like a ribbon made of quiet light. It does not shine brightly enough to disturb the room. It glows softly, almost like the underside of a cloud, and every small ripple in it moves with the same slow rhythm as breathing. You can see no end to the path, and yet it does not feel endless in a lonely way. It feels endless in the way sleep feels endless once you stop resisting it. Wide, gentle, and safe. The fire behind you remains warm. The bed beside the window remains still. The lighthouse beam turns somewhere above, and the silver path waits beyond the glass, patient as a dream. A reflection appears in the window glass. At first, it is only the little stove, the bedside lamp, and the warm room behind you, layered faintly over the moonlit water outside. Then the reflection becomes more delicate. The lantern light seems to float on the sea itself, forming tiny golden points along the silver path. One by one they appear, quiet and steady, like candles set on invisible waves. They do not move towards you quickly. They simply drift, rising and falling with the water, each one small enough to be comforting. The room and the sea are reflected together now. Firelight over moonlight, blankets over water, rest over distance. The window has become a gentle mirror of everything that has soothed you tonight. The narrow bed now seems almost beside the water. The wall has not changed, not exactly, and the window has not opened, yet the sea feels close enough to hear in the softest detail. You can imagine the little waves folding over themselves, whispering against smooth stones, then drawing back again without effort. The quilt lies ready, its colors quiet and familiar. The pillow holds a small pool of moonlight. The brass lamp glows low beside it, making the bed feel sheltered even as the sea stretches wide beyond the glass. It is a strange and perfect combination, the comfort of a room and the spaciousness of the ocean, held together by the lighthouse, a place where you can be completely safe while dreaming of endless water. For a few gentle moments, the chamber feels as though it is floating. The floor remains dark wood, the walls remain curved stone, and the stove remains warm in its corner. Yet there is a subtle rocking to the quiet, as if the whole room has remembered the little boat that brought you across the harbour. Nothing slides or shifts. Nothing feels unsafe. The motion is almost too soft to notice, more like the idea of rocking than the thing itself. The chair, the bed, the table, the window, the folded blanket. Everything stays exactly where it belongs. But beneath it all, the rhythm of the sea returns, slow and steady. The lighthouse is not sending you away. It is only giving the room the gentlest movement, the kind that helps the body remember sleep. The lantern light begins to move with the same rhythm. It sways softly across the ceiling beams, along the curved wall, over the quilt, and across the polished floor. The movement is so slow that it feels less like motion and more like breathing made visible. Warmth rises from the stove. Moonlight rests at the window. The sea hushes close by, steady and low. Each glow returns to where it began, again and again, until the room feels wrapped in a repeating pattern. Amber, silver, shadow, warmth. Amber, silver, shadow, warmth. You do not need to follow the pattern carefully. It is there to follow you, to gather your thoughts when they wander, and guide them back each time to quiet, to comfort, to rest. Above the bed, the ceiling begins to shimmer faintly. At first, it looks like firelight touching the dark wooden beams. Then tiny silver points appear between them, scattered softly in the shadows. They are not bright enough to light the room. They are barely more than glimmers, like stars seen through thin cloud or through half-closed eyes. The lighthouse has gathered so much night into itself. Moon on water, lanterns on stairs, shells in walls, maps of quiet harbours, that now a little of the sky seems to have settled overhead. The bed lies beneath it, warm and ready, as though waiting under a private piece of heaven. You look up at the small starry ceiling and feel the room grow wider without becoming any less safe. The tiny glimmers above are answered by the quilt below. Silver threads across the blanket catch the light one by one, until the bed seems to hold its own quiet constellation. There is no pattern to read, no shape to solve, only a soft scatter of points over deep blue and cream folds. The quilt looks warm enough for winter, light enough for dreams, and familiar in a way you cannot quite explain. It belongs to the lighthouse, to the sea, to the hour after midnight, when all journeys become slower. The glow from the ceiling and the glow from the blanket meet in the space between, making the bed feel gently held. Not just a place to sleep, but a place the whole tower has prepared with care. Beside the bed, a little shelf is built into the stone wall. On it rests a lantern turned low, a smooth shell, a folded handkerchief, and a small dark book with no readable title. The objects are simple, but they feel chosen with quiet love. The shell holds a faint pearly glow. The lantern flame hardly moves. The folded cloth is soft and pale, like a square of moonlight placed carefully for later. The book remains closed, and you feel no need to open it yet. Some stories are meant to be read. Others are meant only to rest nearby, lending the comfort of their presence. The shelf feels like a bedside promise. Everything you might need is within reach, and nothing here will ask more of you than sleep. The small dark book on the shelf shifts slightly in the lantern light. Its cover is plain, almost black blue, like the sea just before dawn. No words mark it, no symbol catches the eye, and yet it has the same patient presence as the lighthouse itself. It does not ask to be opened, it simply waits. You sense that if it did open, it would not tell a loud story of danger or adventure. It would show only quiet things: a window lit at night, a blanket folded back, a path of moonlight, a chair by a fire. Perhaps it is a book of endings, but gentle ones. The kind of endings that are really arrivals. The kind where every road, every stair, every hidden room finally leads to rest. The whole lighthouse gives a low, comforting hum. It is not a sound you hear with your ears at first. It is more like a feeling in the floorboards, in the chair, in the stone around the window. The hum is deep and soft, steady as the turning beam above. It carries the memory of waves against the rocks, lanterns burning through fog, warm rooms waiting in the dark, and all the sleeping harbours held safely below. The stove answers with its own smaller murmur. The sea answers through the glass. Even the quilt seems to answer in stillness. The lighthouse is no longer only a place you have entered. It is a gentle rhythm surrounding you completely, reminding every part of the night that it may rest. You look once more through the window. The sea beyond the glass has darkened slightly, though the moon's path remains bright. The waves are very small now, each one turning over with the slow patience of a sleeping animal. Far out on the water, a few dreamlights drift, pale and soft, like the tiny ships you saw from the lantern room. They move without hurry, following the curve of the moonlight. The lighthouse beam no longer seems separate from them. It feels like part of the same quiet pattern, guiding not by command, but by gentleness. Inside, the room is warm enough to make the glass faintly mist at the edges. Outside, the ocean keeps watch, vast and calm, while sleep draws nearer. The dream lights on the water drift a little closer to the window. They remain far enough away to feel peaceful, but near enough that you can see each one glowing inside a faint halo. Some are golden, some silver, some blue-white like moonlight caught in glass. They do not look like flames. They look like thoughts that have become gentle enough to float. As they pass along the silver path, the room seems to respond. The lamp grows softer, the stove glows lower, the quilt settles more deeply into its folds. Every light outside makes the room inside feel warmer, as though the lighthouse is gathering all wandering dreams and turning them into comfort. You watch without trying to count them. letting them pass one by one across the quiet sea. The chamber settles into a deeper quiet. The small sounds grow fewer and softer. The fire no longer crackles, but glows. The lantern flame no longer flickers, but rests. The sea no longer seems to move wave by wave, but in one long, slow hush. Even the hidden blue door has become part of the wall again, as though all its secret rooms are sleeping behind it. The bed, the chair, the shelf, the window, the cup, the quilt. Each familiar thing holds its place. Nothing asks for attention. Nothing needs to be remembered. The room is complete without effort. And because it is complete, something inside you begins to feel complete as well, as though the night has gathered every loose thought and laid it gently down. The quilt on the bed is now folded back slightly, more than before. It reveals soft sheets beneath, pale and smooth, holding a faint glow from the moonlit window. The pillow looks cool, the blankets warm, and the whole bed seems to carry the perfect balance between sea air and firelight. You do not have to move toward it yet. Simply seeing it is enough to make your breathing slower. The lighthouse has offered many kinds of comfort tonight. Harbour lights, warm kitchens, shell rooms, maps, hidden pools, starry blankets, and the turning lantern above. Now all those comforts seem gathered here in one quiet place. The bed waits not as an ending, but as the natural next shape of the night, soft, still, and ready. You stand in the hush of the chamber and feel the lighthouse holding the night steady around you. Above, the lantern continues its slow, faithful turn. Beyond the window, the moon path remains bright upon the sea. Behind the wall, the hidden rooms are quiet. Beside the fire, the chair rests beneath its blanket, and near the window, the bed waits beneath its folded quilt. Everything has led here so gently that you can hardly tell when the journey became rest. The harbour, the boat, the stairs, the lantern room, the dream maps, the shell-lit passage, all of it feels close, but softened now, like memories already drifting into sleep. The lighthouse has guided you safely through the night. And now, in this warm room beside the moonlit sea, it is ready to guide you the rest of the way inward. You take one slow step towards the bed beside the moonlit window. The room is so quiet now that even the movement feels gentle, as though the floorboards are holding the sound for you instead of letting it echo. The chair rests near the stove, the blanket still folded over its arm. The cup waits on the side table, its steam almost gone. The small blue door has settled fully into the curved wall, and the hidden rooms behind it feel distant and peaceful, like dreams already sleeping within dreams. The bed waits beneath the soft quilt, folded back just enough to reveal pale sheets touched by moonlight. Outside, the sea continues its slow silver breathing. Above, the lantern turns. Everything around you seems to understand that the journey is nearly over, and that rest is close now. The bedside lantern glows low on the small shelf built into the stone. Its flame is tiny but steady, wrapped in warm glass, bright enough only to soften the edge of the pillow and bring a golden line to the folded quilt. Beside it, the pearly shell rests quietly. The folded cloth lies smooth, and the small dark book waits without asking to be opened. The lantern light feels different from the great beam above. The beam guides across distance, over water, harbour, and open night. This little lantern guides only here, across the last few inches between waking and sleep. It glows with the patience of something that knows it will not be needed for much longer. The room is dim but never dark, soft but never empty, quiet but never alone. The quilt seems to lift and settle on its own, light as a sigh. It does not move in any sudden way. It simply rises a little, then rests again, as though the sea's slow rhythm has reached the fabric. The silver threads woven through it glimmer faintly, little points of light scattered across deep blue, cream, and grey. The sheets beneath look cool and smooth, carrying a pale reflection from the moon. The pillow waits beneath the round window, soft and still. You feel the warmth of the stove behind you and the cool peace of the sea before you, meeting in the quiet air around the bed. Everything has become simple now. Warmth behind, moonlight ahead, softness below, and the lighthouse watching over all of it. You settle beneath the quilt, and the room becomes lower, quieter, and warmer. From here, the chamber looks softer than it did before. The stove glows across the room like a small amber heart. The chair stands nearby, with its blanket folded over one arm, ready and peaceful. The tall window frames the moonlit sea, and the silver path on the water seems to stretch directly toward the bed. The quilt rests lightly above you, warm without weight, and the tiny threads in it glimmer like stars seen through half-closed eyes. You do not need to think about the stairs anymore, or the boat, or the hidden rooms, or the lantern at the top. They have all done their work. They have brought you here, to this warm bed beside the sea. The pillow is cool at first, then slowly warms. It holds you gently, with the faint scent of clean cotton, sea air, and cedar from the old wooden beams above. The window is close enough that the moonlight rests across the edge of the bed, but not so bright that it keeps you awake. Outside, the sea moves in long, quiet lines. The waves are no longer separate sounds, but one continuous hush, wide and patient. The little lantern on the shelf glows beside you, its flame reflected in the window as a tiny golden star. The lighthouse beam turns somewhere far above, slower now, softer now, as if it too is preparing for sleep. You breathe in the warmth of the room and breathe out the last of the day. On the small shelf beside the bed, the dark book opens by itself. There is no sound except the faintest whisper of paper. The pages do not show words. They show light instead, the moonlit harbour where you first arrived. the little boat waiting at the jetty, the lantern steps climbing toward the tower, the warm kitchen, the map room, the spiral stair, the great lens, and the hidden rooms glowing behind the blue door. Each image is soft, small, and calm, as though the book is not asking you to remember the journey, but gently folding it away for the night. The page turns again, slowly. The images grow simpler. A window, a quilt, a lamp, a sea, a bed, and then only warm light. The book settles on its final page. This page shows the lighthouse from outside, standing tall on its rocky island beneath the moon. Its windows glow warmly. Its beam turns across the water, and the sea around it rests in calm silver folds. The harbour is only a faint curve in the distance, soft with tiny lights. The little boat is tied safely at the hidden dock. The steps are still. The door is closed. Every room inside the tower seems to be sleeping, except the one where you now rest beneath the quilt. The picture holds the whole night in perfect quiet. Then the page's golden light grows dimmer, as though the story itself has reached the place where it no longer needs to be told aloud. Above you, the great lantern continues to turn, but now it feels slower. You cannot see it directly from the bed, only the soft result of it, a gentle glow that passes across the ceiling from time to time, moves over the walls, then fades again. Each passing light feels farther apart than the last, not because the lighthouse is stopping, but because your own sense of time is stretching, loosening, becoming dreamlike. The warm room remains steady. The stove glows low. The bed holds you softly. Outside the window, the moon's path lies quiet across the sea. When the light passes again, it is pale gold and very gentle, like a hand moving once over the surface of water, smoothing every ripple it finds. The chamber begins to feel as though it is drifting again, not moving away from the lighthouse and not leaving the tower behind, but floating within its own quiet safety. The bed seems to rise and settle with the tide, so gently that it could just be your breath, or the sea, or the dream beginning beneath the surface of sleep. The fire glows in the stove, steady and low. The lantern on the shelf remains warm and small. The moonlight at the window shifts over the quilt like water over sand. Nothing changes enough to wake you. Everything changes just enough to soothe you. The room becomes a cradle of stone, wood, fire, and sea, rocking without effort in the arms of the night. The ocean seems to breathe for you now. Each slow hush beyond the glass draws the night outward, and each quiet return brings calm back into the room. The sound is so steady that you no longer need to follow it. It follows you. It fills the spaces between thoughts, softening them before they can become anything sharp. The pillow is warm now. The quilt is gentle. The little lantern beside the bed glows lower, but the room remains safe in its dimness. Far out on the water, a few dream lights drift across the moon path, slower than before, like stars that have grown tired and chosen the sea as their bed. You breathe with the room, with the lighthouse, with the ocean, until all three feel the same. Behind the curved wall, the hidden rooms grow quiet. You can almost feel them settling one by one. The tide pool becomes still beneath its round window. The shell lanterns dim to pearly shadows. The fabric maps stop stirring. The blanket room folds itself into warmth. The work table rests beneath its lamp, unfinished things waiting peacefully for another dream. The low tide room holds its smooth stones under moonlight. Nothing vanishes. Nothing is lost. The lighthouse simply gathers each room back into itself, carefully and kindly, the way someone might close shutters, lower a lamp, and draw a blanket over a sleeping child. The blue door remains closed in the wall, but behind it, every secret place is safe, warm, and resting. Far below the tower, the harbour sleeps. You cannot see all of it from the bed, but you remember its quiet curve, the moored boats, the lantern posts, the cottages with their dark windows and warm roofs. You imagine the little town settled beneath the same moon, every lane empty, every step dry and pale, every rope resting loose against the pier. The boat that carried you across the water rocks gently at the hidden dock, tied safely until morning. The lighthouse beam passes over the harbour again, but softer than before, barely touching it, as though careful not to wake even the smallest dream. Somewhere below, the tide breathes against stone. Somewhere above, the light turns. Here in the middle, you rest. On the little table beside the chair, the cup catches a final glow. The tea inside has gone still, reflecting the lantern light, the window, and a small piece of moon. No steam rises now. It has cooled into quiet. The cup looks as though it has kept one last bit of warmth for the room. Not to be drunk, but simply to be there. A small, ordinary comfort among all the dreamlike things. Beside it, the folded blanket on the chair has fallen into deep, soft shadows. The stove gives a low amber pulse. The cup reflects it, then the window, then the lantern, holding each light for a moment before letting it go. Even this small object seems to know the rhythm now. Receive, soften, release, rest. The window begins to blur gently at the edges, not from fog, not from rain, but from sleep approaching. The moon remains clear enough, and the silver path still rests across the water. Yet the details of the waves grow softer and softer. The rocks below become smooth shapes. The far harbour lights become tiny, warm stars. The glass gathers a faint glow where the room reflects upon it, blending the outside sea with the inside firelight until neither feels separate from the other. You let your eyes rest on the softened window without trying to focus. The world beyond it is still there, held safely by the lighthouse, but you no longer need to look closely. You only need to feel its calm. The lighthouse keeps watch while you rest. It does not need you to listen or look. It does not need you to understand the paths of ships, stars, or dreams. Its work continues quietly above and around you, stone holding firm against the sea, lantern turning in its glass room, hidden chambers folded warm within the walls, and the little bed beside the window sheltered from the night. You feel held by all of it, held by the tower, held by the fire, held by the sea that moves without asking anything in return. The lighthouse has guided you from shore to harbour, from boat to stair, from light to bed. Now it guides without movement, by simply remaining steady while your thoughts drift farther and farther away. The sound of the sea becomes a lullaby without words. It rises and falls beyond the window, softer than music, older than memory. Each wave comes in, pauses, and slips away. Each pause grows longer, easier, quieter. The room listens with you. The stove listens. The lantern listens. The closed book on the shelf listens. Even the quilt seems to listen, resting lightly over the bed as though it has learned the rhythm by heart. There is nothing left to follow now. The story has become sound. The sound has become breath, and the breath has become rest. Somewhere above, the lighthouse beam passes once more across the sleeping water. Somewhere below, the tide folds around the rocks. And here, in the warm center of it all, everything grows still. The silver path across the sea begins to fade. The moon is still there, bright and calm behind a veil of cloud, but its reflection has softened into a wide, pale glow. The water no longer looks like separate ripples. It looks like one dark, breathing surface held under the sky. The dream lights have drifted far away, or perhaps become stars again. The harbour is quiet. The rocks are quiet. The hidden rooms are quiet. The little lantern beside the bed lowers to a warm ember of light, and the stove answers it with another. Between them, the room holds a gentle darkness, not empty or cold, but full of safety. The last bright edges of the night soften, and the world becomes easier to leave behind. Only the last warm glow remains. It rests in the stove, in the lantern glass, in the polished wood, in the curve of the stone wall. It rests on the edge of the shell, the cover of the closed book, and the folds of the quilt. It does not ask you to stay awake for it. It only keeps the room gentle while sleep comes closer. The lighthouse beam above is now a distant rhythm, more felt than seen. The sea outside is a soft hush beyond thought. The bed holds you without weight. The pillow is warm. The quilt is still. The night has become small enough to fit inside one calm breath, and wide enough to hold every dream you might need. The last glow softens, but does not disappear. The lighthouse begins to enter your dream, not by changing shape, and not by fading away, but by becoming part of the quiet inside you. Its tower becomes a steady breath. Its lantern becomes a slow thought of gold. Its stare becomes a spiral of warmth. Its windows become moons over water. Its hidden rooms become soft places folded behind sleep. The sea becomes a blanket. The harbour becomes a memory of safety. The little boat becomes a gentle rocking beneath the dream. Everything you saw tonight remains, but lighter now, softer now, no longer outside you. The lighthouse has guided you as far as waking can go. From here, it does not need to lead. It only glows, somewhere deep and kind, while you drift. And at last, sleep arrives. It comes without sound, without effort, without asking you to follow. It settles over the room like a soft tide. The stove is only a glow now. The lantern is only a star. The moon beyond the window is only a gentle blur above the water. The lighthouse keeps watch, tall and steady in the dream, its beam turning slowly over the sleeping sea. The harbour rests below. The boat rests at the dock. The hidden rooms rest behind the wall. The quilt rests warm and light, and the pillow holds the last trace of moonlight. There is nothing more to do, nowhere else to go. The night is safe. The sea is calm. The lighthouse is near, and you are carried softly and completely into sleep.